All right guys, so the next exercise is the bicep curl. I see a lot of mistakes with the bicep curl in the gym, okay? People going too heavy, trying to launch the weight, throwing it, swinging it, and not creating mechanical tension on the muscle tissue. We have something called a carrier arm, and as you can see when you look at my arms here, this is not a straight line, okay? We need to respect that line and we need to follow that line as we come up through elbow flexion, okay? If I turn to the side, you'll see that we have an axis here at the shoulder and one at the elbow. Okay, we've also got one at the wrist, but we're not going to talk about that right now. What we want to make sure is that when we're doing this exercise, we're thinking tangential the whole time and the shoulder needs to stay still. So the first movement here is to go away from me. And then it's going to be coming up. Then eventually I'm going to be thinking pull in. Okay, so I want to try and create that tension throughout the range of motion as much as possible. Where it's going to be the greatest amount of tension is going to be here at 90 degrees, where that load is the furthest away from the elbow, which also happens to be perpendicular. That is what we call a moment arm. Okay, so when we come up, we want to make sure we control it, come through that range of motion with control. We don't want to see the shoulder come forward, throwing and catching, or even worse, using the spine. Okay, so when setting up for the bicep curl, we want to make sure that we get a good postural position. Any free weight exercise, you're only as good as the non-moving parts. If you blow the non-moving parts and they start moving, you cannot move around the axes as well as possible. So, soften the knees slightly, make sure we're slightly tucked under in the sacrum. Chest tall, extended in the spine. Go to that carrier arm position. Once you get into that carrier arm position, we're going to come up. First movement is away from the body, then it's up, and then we're thinking in. On the way down, just losing that tug of war with control. Pause, just win that tug of war. Control. Some common mistakes. You'll see people throw the weight. That shoulder axis now is coming into play. I'm launching it. I've just taken away all that mechanical tension on the tissue. Okay, if this says 7.5, I'm coming up with way more than 7.5, but it can be as little as 1 or 2 on the way up, and as much as 16 plus on the way down, but I'm not even controlling it. Okay, that's where we put a lot more pressure through the joints. So what we want to see is control, squeezing through the biceps, the elbow flexors, and controlling on the way down.